Every night on Storm Stories, only on the Weather Channel.
Get ready, because something really, really, really big is coming your way. Kick off the fall with a bang and a bunk. When one of America's favorite family television series lands on PAX. America's funniest home videos. Catch all the action this fall on PAX.
Who should be our next Mercer County executive? As a freeholder, Democrat Brian Hughes preserved thousands of acres of open space and uncovered neglect at the County Geriatric Center. And Kathy DeCostanzo? As Mercer County Clerk, Kathy DeCostanzo grossly mismanaged her office, miscounting votes, reporting the wrong election winner. Her budget skyrocketed 67%. She even spent $30,000 tax dollars on new furniture. Mercer County deserves better.
Welcome back to Evening Edition West Coast. I'm meteorologist Rick Griffin. 10 before the hour now, so let's get an update on the tropics. And the good news is it's a quiet night in the Atlantic. But you know, we do have one system we're following, and that is Tropical Storm Nicholas out in the middle of the Atlantic Ocean. And Nicholas has been holding on pretty well over the last 24 hours, despite quite a bit of upper level wind interacting with it, or shearing winds aloft. For a time earlier today, Nicholas actually strengthened a little bit, went from 50 mile an hour to 60 mile per hour maximum sustained winds. The official strength tonight, though, is back to 50 mile per hour winds. Now, Nicholas is in an area where the winds aloft are strong, but the steering currents overall are very weak. So the movement of Nicholas right now is nearly stationary. This is kind of meandering out here, 935 miles east of the Leeward Islands in the Atlantic Ocean. Its impact, minimal or none to any land areas. For shipping that happens to be out in this vicinity, it could be a pretty rough ride, but since it's moving so slowly, the ship traffic out there in the Atlantic should be able to steer around Nicholas. It is expected to accelerate in its forward movement to the north-northwest in the next couple of days into the mid-latitudes. Well, we'll keep an eye on it. That's Tropical Storm Nicholas. This band of cloud cover, cold front sliding through the Bahamas. Its trailing end is stalling out over the western Caribbean, kicking up some thunderstorms just off the coast of Belize. Now, this is an area where we frequently keep an eye on things this late in the season. It's a climatological hotspot, especially when you get these stalled out fronts. But in this case, winds are so strong aloft that no tropical organization is possible at this time. Looking at the Gulf of Mexico, it's a great night. Skies are partly cloudy, no sign of anything at this time. And in the eastern Pacific, well, there's a weak low pressure area here south of the coast, but it shows little sign of organizing at this point, and it's just an area we'll have to monitor the next couple of days. On the other hand, there's a pretty strong tropical storm, Ketsana, east of the Philippines, 55 mile per hour sustained winds. It is expected, while it is moving very slowly now, to eventually move off to the north-northeast. That'll take it into the vicinity of Iwo Jima a couple of days down the road as a typhoon with up to 70 to 80 knot winds. So not the strongest typhoon we've experienced in the Pacific, but something we'll have to watch closely. Meanwhile, back in the States, strong mid-latitude storms coming towards the coast of Washington and Oregon, still well offshore tonight, but as it comes onshore, the rainfall, which is very light and spotty now, will be increasing, along with increasing wind, especially on the coastline. Gale warnings have been posted. Rainfall overnight, light to moderate, but becoming heavier west of the Cascades on Monday. Meanwhile, the rest of the West, fabulous fall weather if you enjoy it warm and dry this time of the year. You've got it again on Monday. Meanwhile, in the Midwest, a quiet night. Monday, much warmer in Chicago, 83. Can you believe it? High pressure in the Northeast is a chilly, frosty night. Temperatures will warm steadily on Monday, though. 54 in Boston, 60s in D.C. And if you've liked the weather recently in the South, virtually no change on Monday.
It's easy to act.
Hey, I'm Bob Stokes. Typically, climatologically, this time of the year when storms, tropical storms or hurricanes originate, they often do so in the western part of the Caribbean or western Atlantic. This is 1886 to 2002. We've had 80 storms and or hurricanes in this time frame of October 11 through the 20th. We still have Tropical Storm Nicholas, winds of 50 miles an hour. Of course, at one time it was up to 65, undergoing a lot of shear out of the west and southwest. Eventually, a trough that you see over the western Atlantic will pick this up. It'll become absorbed in this trough, shunt it toward the north, and then the northeast. We've had a wave over the Windward Islands over the weekend, moving toward Puerto Rico. Not much coming of it. Upper level winds not favorable. A little rain action possible. Here's a check of Tropical Storm Nicholas. 50-mile-per-hour wind centered 900 miles east of the Leeward Islands. It's mainly a marine hazard right now. Movement, nothing, nearly stationary, but when it does move, it's expected to start drifting toward the north. This is a 5 a.m. Atlantic Standard Time advisory. It's been in a weakening phase, undergoing shear. It's been defying this shear, still maintaining its identity, the convection or storminess waxing and waning, but again, moving away from the U.S. once it begins its journey northward, then northeastward, away from the U.S. There's that trough that will influence Nicholas. We, again, had some weakness around Puerto Rico, a little bit of a wave that was spawned by Nicholas, but nothing expected to come of it. It's quiet in the Gulf of Mexico, but the Gulf of Tehuantepec, there's some storminess. We'll be watching that for any possible development. And we've got a tropical storm in the western Pacific. You can see it east of the Philippines. It's expected to move toward Iwo Jima and could become a typhoon over the next, say, 18 to 24 hours. We'll be monitoring this for you. And now, here's Kim.
Warmer temperatures, continued drought. What do those two predictors about the coming winter mean for your heating and grocery bills? Vince Lipari has details in the Bloomberg Money Barometer.
Good morning. The National Oceanic and Atmospheric Administration said the western U.S. will have above normal temperatures this winter, while a drought will persist in much of the region. The NOAA said the lack of an El Niño weather pattern makes it more difficult to predict the weather in the rest of the country. Crude oil and natural gas traders use the agency's outlooks as guidance when they estimate demand for heating fuels. Frigid weather last winter from the Midwest to the Northeast drove the price of natural gas to a record high of more than $10 per million BTU. A heating demand caused by the cold weather pushed inventories to a record low and led to above normal prices all spring. Predictions of a continued drought in the Midwest could also affect a number of crops in the region, including soybeans. If you recall, just last week, the Department of Agriculture forecast that the soybean crop would be the smallest since 1996 due to the lack of rain. For the Weather Channel, I'm Vince Lipari with a Bloomberg Money Barometer.
Well, from worries about what the winter may bring, let's shift to any weather worries facing your morning drive.
You sure needed car heaters in Boston. Find out if you'll want them again for your ride to work today. That's ahead as First Outlook continues.
This program was brought to you by Chevy. The cars you can depend on, the cars that last. We'll be there. It's simple, really. If we could get everybody in the country to drive the all-new Chevy Malibu, we think you'd agree. It's just about perfect.
Sweetheart, I miss you.
Miss you too.
What did you do today?
I played soccer.
For your most important calls, reach out on the wireless service America trusts. AT&T Wireless.
Right.
And that means it's time for your tropical update. That's right, we're still in the tropical season, hurricane season not over yet, and we want to show you when we usually have most of the activity, and you can probably guess this already, between August and end of September. Basically your peak time for hurricanes and tropical storms and tropical depressions, but still, as we get through mid-October, you have the possibility of a little more activity, and in fact, we do have a few things going on. We have Nicholas to tell you about right in the center of the Atlantic, but the rest of the area looking real good. The Caribbean, not too bad, and also into the Gulf of Mexico, very, very clear and dry and quiet, and just some beautiful weather going on for the lower 48. So no big-time threat to any land at this point, and that is something we can breathe a sigh of relief about. Now, let's give you the specifics on Tropical Storm Nicholas. And as of 11 a.m. Atlantic Standard Time, these were the coordinates in case you're plodding along with us. I know a lot of you out there like to do that. 18.0 north, 48.5 west. Now, the winds are at 45 miles per hour, and its movement is west-northwest at 5 miles per hour, and not looking that great at this point. It's centered about 840 miles east of the Leeward Islands, so it's still pretty far away. Like I said, no big-time threat to any land at this point. And as you can see, over the past 2 or 3 hours or so, we've seen a little bit of a dissipation of the convection. In other words, it's not showing signs of a lot of convection or showers and thunder showers surrounding that center of circulation, which, by the way, is right about here. So most of the convection is just to the east of the center of circulation, which is not looking like a very healthy storm that shows signs of development. So, like I said, we're just going to monitor the situation with this particular tropical storm. At this point, it's not a threat to any landmass right now. Into the Caribbean, we just have a flare-up of convection in the central Caribbean, but all is looking quiet back towards Cuba and Jamaica, and looking good across the Gulf of Mexico, too. And this is just another vantage point of what's happening. You can see Hispaniola and on back through Puerto Rico and the Virgin Islands. Very quiet and dry today. No big-time problems for you. And the closer vantage point of the islands, things are looking great this afternoon. St. Lucia, as well as Martinique and Dominica, and no problems into the Virgin Islands either. Now we have a brand new tropical depression in the Pacific. This is 16E, and the winds are at 35 miles per hour. Its movement is west at 9 miles per hour, and it's centered about 470 miles just to the south of Acapulco, Mexico. And if you're plodding along with us, this is the first one, 10.0 north, 100.7 west. So that's what's happening with Tropical Depression 16E, just to the south and west of Acapulco, Mexico, showing some signs of development. Could become a tropical storm, so we will certainly monitor the situation for you. And as we go a little farther out, here we go to the Philippines and Taiwan, Iwo Jima right in here. This is a typhoon, a minimal typhoon right now. It is expected to pass to the west of Iwo Jima, and this is a tropical depression which could become a tropical storm, expected to pass east of Iwo Jima. So going to be right in the middle of two different systems. What's going on in the lower 48 with Storm Watch? Here's Rich.
Yeah, let's take a look at the lower 48 and see what's happening. Overall, fairly quiet day today, although the northwest, that's where we have a different story. The rain is coming in with this cold front. Travel conditions will be a little tough. Latest look at the winds, still pretty gusty over to the coast. I saw some of the gusts in the range of around 45 miles per hour. The gusts aren't quite as strong as you head back over toward Puget Sound, but still not bad with some of the winds gusting all 20 to 40 miles per hour. The latest radar showing the rain. This is a big problem here, just a solid sheet of rain. We saw this starting all the middle of last week, and right in through the weekend now, early this week, pattern hasn't changed. We have that Pacific flow. The rain continues to near around Olympia, then it really starts to break up. The other story, well, that would be the warm weather. Look at the departure from average. The highs yesterday, 30 degrees above average in some cases across the plains, and we're well on our way to heading that way again today, with temperatures staying in the 70s already, heading the 80s again. Warm day coming up.
It really is. I can't believe it. Well, coming up, we'll have your current conditions and your forecast for this Monday.
Plus, the warm weather is allowing you to get out and enjoy the sights in Denver, but will those warm temperatures stick around? Details are coming up next hour. Stay with this. Your local on the 8s are coming up.
This program was brought to you by Suzuki. The best values on the road are at Suzuki. Make the smart move. Check out the full line of Suzuki cars and SUVs now.
Yes, you're lovely, never ever change.
your extended forecast.
Welcome back to PM Edition. It's 10 minutes before the hour and time for your tropical update. I'm Carl Parker. Let's check in with our hurricane expert, Dr. Steve Lyons. And Dr. Lyons, even though we're ramping down at this time of the year, it was a pretty exciting time of year about 53 years ago.
It sure was, Carl. 1950 in Florida, we had 3 hurricane landfalls and a storm landfall. Just a couple of days prior to this, in 1950, we had a major hurricane strike the southeast coast of Florida, and on this date it was Hurricane Love that eventually weakened a tropical storm and moved in near Panama City tomorrow in 1950. So it was very active then. Well, what do we have out there today? Let's look at the latest satellite imagery. We have a low pressure system in the southwestern Caribbean. That's typical of this time of year. They tend to form there. Now, I've drawn on top of that the upper level winds, and notice all these west winds. They increase in speed as we go to the north, which is great news. Up here they're 50 to 80 miles per hour. Down here they're 40 to 60 miles per hour. In here they're 30 to 40. No chance for any tropical cyclone development here, but our weak little low pressure system is down here right underneath the anticyclone, so there's very little shear there. So we'll keep an eye on this system over the next couple of days. Typically what happens with these, they tend to migrate toward the north or to the northeast. As they get into the westerly flow, they tend to move off to the east. Now, in a pattern like this, if this system moves to the north, there's no way it's going to develop. It would be sheared, so it's going to have to stay down there for a while. In the meantime, expect showers in Honduras and Nicaragua if you're heading that way, and Belize still remains a little bit cloudy and rainy for this time of year. Gulf of Mexico, Caribbean, Florida, great weather there with a cold front well through you, and the Antilles also very nice weather. Now there's the upper level wind field you can see in our water vapor imagery, moving very fast across Florida, even with a dry slot of air from the mid-latitudes intruding. And that westerly wind that comes all the way over in the central Atlantic where we have our tropical storm. Let's look at the latest on Tropical Storm Nicholas. See, the winds are 40 miles per hour. The circulation is actually over here. There are only a few isolated thunderstorms remaining with it, moving west-northwest at 7. And zoom in on it and see what it looks like in the close-up. And there's the vortex sitting there. This will remain just a marine hazard. The upper-level winds here, still fast from the west. It's going to get caught up with a trough and move to the north and not affect anybody, other than a mariner if they happen to get caught in it. And if you're anywhere close to it, go to the southwest quadrant. The winds are weak there, and the seas are only about 6 feet. Now in the eastern Pacific, we have a new tropical storm, Patricia, and then you can see the system spinning around out here. Now this time of year, the systems tend to move to the west, but notice the upper level winds in here coming from the west. So if these systems get up in here, they start to turn and recurve back toward the Mexican coastline. Now we expect this system to move up to the north, strengthen to a hurricane, and then weaken back down to tropical storm as it heads in the general direction of Baja California or the Mexican coastline north of Manzanillo. So continue to monitor that system. Right now it's not producing any adverse weather for the Mexican coastline, so we're okay there. If you're heading toward the far east, in the Philippines we have a typhoon. This is Katsana. Winds 90 miles per hour. It's forecast to become a 140 mile per hour typhoon as it moves to the north over the next several days slowly, and then races off faster to the north and weakens, staying well south of the main islands of Japan. Well, that's a tropical update. Let's get back to Carl in the studio.
Dr. Steve Lyons, thank you so much. Let's take you into the U.S. now, and the big story today has been the incredibly warm weather with a big ridge of high pressure in place. Temperatures well into the 80s today in many areas. It's now 87 in St. Louis, and we'll find more weather tomorrow, warm weather I should say, across the high plains and the southern plains and much of the west. A lot of wind with a system coming now through the western lakes, winds gusting to over 30 miles an hour in some spots, and we continue to see the very rainy weather in the Pacific Northwest. We've had several inches of rain in some locations, and there could be a lot more of that in the next 24 hours. Winds have been very gusty here as well.
Well, there's much more to come in the second hour of PM Edition. We'll take a look ahead. We'll take a look at this upcoming work week and beyond in your weekly planner.
We'll be right back after your local on the 8th. Stay tuned.
This program was brought to you by Suzuki. The best values on the road are at Suzuki. Make the smart move. Check out the...